Hello everyone! This is Dragon Videos and welcome back to my channel. It's August, so we're practically going to be seeing a couple of anniversaries of certain shows and movies. In this case, this is the 3-year anniversary of Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance, a very beloved Netflix show that was cancelled too soon. And yes, I'm a bit salty about it like the rest of y'all, but the good news is there is going to be a convention coming up in November in Las Vegas, so hopefully we can get some news by then of what's going to happen in the future of the franchise. And in light of that, I thought to at least make up a list of top 8 cartoons that deserved a revival. So for this video, I'm going to discuss about videos or cartoons that technically deserve to be revived, usually because they have very interesting plots or a certain artwork style that we can't help but love. Remember, these are just my opinions alone, and there can be some nostalgia with this list. Bear in mind, these can have some spoilers in them. So if you don't want to be spoiled by some of these cartoons I'm going to talk about, well, feel free to get off now and go over the cartoons. But without further ado, let's begin top 8 cartoons that deserve a revival. Yeah, I bet many of you never expected me to put Centaur World on this list, but you'd probably understand why if you watched the show. Through 2 seasons alone, it definitely had a bit of a satisfying ending, but it did feel like a bit rushed, as well as some of the wasted potential of the world building that it had to offer. Centaur World really had some very good catchy songs, as well as the messages that the adults could easily pick up on, as well as that the animation seemed friendly enough for kids. I also appreciate not only the art style of it, but as well as the characterization that each of the characters are given, looking into both their backgrounds and some of the developments they had to overcome. While at the same time, I do feel like they could have done better with the story, or at least give more world building of how the magic of Centaur World works, as well as more about of how humans and centaurs came to be in their location. And yeah, this show had a lot of potential if Netflix hadn't quietly canceled it. I know it's kind of a shocker that they would do that, but at the same time, it just felt like this was a show that seemed worthwhile watching. Actually, this didn't become a cartoon yet, but I thought of making a mention of how this could have been a huge possible project that could have been expressed through animation. So for some of you who may not be familiar with the Bone series, this is a story about a world that involves around dreams. This Lord of the Locusts wants nothing more than to cause death and destruction wherever it went. thus doing a creation world creator corruption sort of thing. And because of that, the dragons have to use every ounce of their power to protect the world from crumbling any further. As a result, it definitely put on a very interesting story that follows the three boys, the Bone cousins, Von Bone, the Brains, Phony, the annoying, more greedy one, and then Smiley, the friendlier of the two. This trio find themselves in a brand new land that is filled with wonder and mystery. Unfortunately, before this project could even get started, it got axed by Netflix due to certain situations. I felt like this was wasted potential at that point because we could have looked more into the concept of what the animation style could have been, the voice actors that they could have used for Fawn, Smiley, and Phony, as well as what could have been followed in terms of a comic. Just bringing that to life would have been a nice pace for fantasy lovers, as well as a good introduction to the Bone reading, the Bone books that we all grew up with in the past. So yeah, I felt like this seemed ideal at the time to be mentioning it as a animation project that deserved a revival. Maybe not by Netflix, but maybe by someone else who's willing to take on the project at full speed. Unfortunately, this too fell victim to the Netflix chopping block of cancellations. Wings of Fire was supposed to be produced by Tui T. Sutherland, the author of this book series, and many Wings of Fire fans were pretty bummed about this. So for some of you who don't know what this series is, Wings of Fire is basically a fantasy series that focuses on 7 dragon tribes that are at war with each other, mostly just for survival. 5 dragonettes are prophesized to actually save the world from dying. However, they want to do it on their own terms. And of course, it practically led on to more series over time. And again, I felt like this was practically wasted potential at this point. It's not more of just the concept of having more animation that's not only just hand-drawn and 3D computer generated, but it was also a nice idea to have a fantasy genre that's made for all ages, and as well as exploring of how the story could have been portrayed through the media. So yeah, it would have been a nice idea to actually explore, and it would have been a very enjoyable cartoon. Wings of Fire definitely deserved so much better. It still is popular right now, and I hope it progresses later on in the future. Man, was this one a beloved classic in the 1990s. Captain Planet was probably one of the few cartoons that I personally know that actually focused on the environment. It was very common during that time. For some of you who may not be familiar with this old show, it focuses on the 5 kids who are granted these powerful rings by the goddess Gaia and be able to use their powers of earth, water, fire, air or wind, and heart in order to summon Captain Planet, Earth's ultimate champion, as well as the protector of all things in life. One of the things that really makes it very interesting is I can't help but wonder the potential that this cartoon will be if it was rebooted up today. I mean, the art style will probably be a little different, but yeah, at the same time, there's probably going to be more heavy topics to talk about now. The reason why I say that is because in the past it's been discussing a lot of social issues, whether in regards if it's just homelessness, the division of poor versus rich, as well as deforestation and the common pollutants. So yeah, I feel like Captain Planet is definitely one of those cartoons on this list that seriously deserves a revival, especially in the world that we live in now. And it's nice to have a good reminder that discusses the seriousness of why we should take care of our world, especially considering of how modern day cartoons actually discuss those topics and not afraid to hold on or pull on the punches. Hero 108 was a very interesting one. Most of the titles always ended up with some sort of animal castle that these heroes have to go through, and the art style is a very interesting one at that. So this cartoon actually focuses on a group of heroes named Team Big Green, Mighty Ray with electric eyeballs, Mystique Sonia with the power to use her tongue to take down enemies, along with Yaksha, her little companion, Jumping Ghostface or Ghostface, the Rabbit King, as well as I'm sorry, I used to remember this guy's name but it kind of escaped me. Anyway, these group have to go and help out a truly their leader actually unite all the animal kings and bring peace into the world. Not only that, but they have to take down a very insane ruler that just wants nothing more than to eat candy and boss people around all day. One of the things that I felt like this was a very interesting and unique plot line. The one thing that bothered me was, well, the ending was a bit rushed, and it didn't exactly unite all the animals properly, as well as the true identity of their leader, Ape Truly, who turns out to be an actual monkey that united all the animals, would have come into play. So yeah, I think if they redid it a little bit more, the cartoon would have been a very exciting one to watch. So this is why I put it further down the list, because the art style is very unique compared to the modern day animation we always get with either computer generated flash animation, which I guess I'm okay with, as well as the cellular animation style that seems similar to that of the Japanese anime. But there are still more that have yet to come. Ah yes, Chaotic was a very fun show to watch. You see, it was actually once based off of a Danish card game, and it was still a card game during the show. So yeah, this was like during the time when Yu-Gi-Oh was happening. Anyway, it focuses on Param, where 5 tribal creatures fight for survival in a mysterious force of Akafaka. Marillions, as you can see here, being one of them. So there was also Overworlder, Underworlder, Danian, and Mepedian. Not only that, but the humans who get to travel to Param also have the capability of turning into the respective creatures they have taken form of and battle in these locations. But it's not always fun in games considering the high risks and stakes they have to take on, though the show definitely has a good amount of humor that I still love even now. And on top of that, it focuses on 4 human protagonists who explore the world of Param, as well as helping the creatures out whenever possible. Again, this was a really clever and imaginative show. While some people had some issues with how it was first built out, I felt like it was also a good revival show to have because it had amazing world building, the rules, the functions, the musics, Everything about the show really was something very endearing, which gave it a lot of popularity. If it were to be revived, I feel like they could have done some more world building around the Kathoka and the lost city of elements to make it all relevant. Overall, this is why I put it at number 2, because this felt like a card game show that separated itself from everything else. Not only do you interact and become the creatures, but you get to be involved in the adventures that the creatures have and the struggles they face with, giving it a lot of depth, which is why I put it at number 3, but there's still more that is yet to come, so we're not done with this list yet, folks. A better version of the Duel Masters, if some of you have recalled the anime. Anyway, Kaijudo focuses a story on Rei, a young boy who comes across the secret sanction called the Veil that's supposed to keep the human and kaiju realms separate. Along with his friends Ali and Gabriel, he tries everything in his power to bond with creatures as well as save the world from an evil bad guy known as the Choden, a very creepy and charismatic man. And of course, he has to learn the secrets of his own power in order to save his father. So overall, one of the things that earned the spot at number 2 is because the relationships are so well thought out and realistic. And on top of that, the characters as well as the creatures definitely become vibrant, and it definitely tackles heavy themes like bullying and prejudice. So in a lot of ways, this feels like a really good show that was practically abandoned over time. And of course, the villain of the Choden is practically a very underrated villain in general, mostly because he's very cunning and almost comes across as someone who takes one step ahead of the group in more ways than one. So yeah, this was definitely a very disturbing character that not many people want to go over. And of course, I do feel like there's some huge potential for the world building that will follow. I mean, I practically loved the couples in this, and the Light Civilization deserved a bit more screen time, that's for sure. Aside from Sasha, of course, the monarchs were pretty interesting in general. Another concept in the story that I do feel like that Reboot should have done is going over the artifacts and more of the history of how the Kaiju War began. These were all the things that seemed so important upon a possible revival. There's just so many things that can be touched and written in a way where the show could have been even more enjoyable and earned a 3rd season overall. Again, this was a very forgotten gem made by Hasbro, the very same people who did Transformers. So I hope that one day this show actually would come back. Oh, hell no. Why? Why did this thing have to exist? We wanted a reboot, but this is not what we had in mind. I mean, just even seeing the trailer alone, I felt this was practically flipping the bird for the Thundercat fandom. The Thundercats 2011 was 4 times better than this. So it practically focused on a young man named Lion-O who wanted nothing more than to explore the tech that resided in their world, and along the way learns the history of the sword that had made him and his ancestors king. He definitely has a lot of pressure, but aided by Panthro, his stepbrother Tigra, and Chitara, Lion-O definitely learns of how to be a leader and what it means to be king. One of the things that I felt like was so deserving of this was the story was very interesting. There was a nice enough world building, and if you look at the character designs, it definitely holds on to more of the animalish anatomy that they were trying to go for, compared to how the 1980s one kind of looked more like a bunch of humans doing a couple of cosplay. Plus, the relationships and dynamics that this show goes through is pretty organic and real, as well as the drama definitely makes us feel bad for the characters in each of a situation they had gone through, as well as the villains themselves were definitely fleshed out, becoming more scary and terrifying. I mean, true, Mumra wasn't as intimidating now as he was back in the 1980s, but the 2011 version definitely hold on to, I am scary, but I'm still within the PG rating of this show. So it definitely felt like, in some ways, this was very nicely thought out world building that threw some science fiction in there without overdoing it. And I did hope that they could have continued more of this, considering that Season 2 of the Thundercats 2011 version practically ended on a cliffhanger, and the potential of it was just wasted with that Thundercats roar. And in a lot of ways, I just really hope they could bring it back, as well as possibly giving off more evolving cultures, maybe giving us more ideas of how the lizard can work, how the monkeys work, as well as just giving more into Lionel's definition of what it means to be a leader and how he inspires all. So yeah, Thundercats above all is one of the best cartoons that really deserves to be rebooted, let alone having an additional final season, possibly. So these are just my thoughts, and I'd like to hear yours. What sort of cartoon would you want to be brought back into existence in our modern day times? Remember to do a like and subscribe and share your thoughts below. This is Dragon Videos signing off.